Welcome to today's video, which is on tire levers, and is a follow-up to this video right here, in which I got a lot of comments, and yeah, I left out one or two achievers. And as part of that, what I'm doing is I'm just looking today at the best tire levers, and part of that was research I did for this video right here, where I discuss and review the worst tire lever probably ever made, the Silca tire lever. For the past 6 months and probably about 50 tire changes, I've only allowed myself to use these levers right here, which I'm going to talk about today. I've avoided using the big dogs, the bead hookers, the metal levers, and that cush core gadget. And I'm going to give you my findings on which tire lever may be best for you. Be careful. Before I go any further in this video, I want to remind you of something. There is nearly an infinite combination of rim sizes, widths, materials, bead hook configurations. Also, to further confuse things, for your tire levers, there is your traditional road tires, there is your tubeless tires. Then if you're looking at gravel, you've got the new generation, let's say a 50 mil tires that everyone seems to be using. Then you can get into a lighter cross-country tire, which seems to be all the rave in gravel right now. As an example, try to get a Thunderbird in Canada. It's pretty hard right now. Then there's your traditional, let's call it downcountry type or trail type tires like this Forecaster. And finally, your double down and downhill type tires. So your experiences with tire levers could be different than mine. Also, to further complicate things then, let's talk about rim inserts. You can have softer type ones that are easier to install, moderate ones, or the absolute worst, which is this cush core. So what I always suggest is if you're going to do tire levers is to make sure that you can change your tire in the shop before you go out into the wilderness with your tire lever. And as an example, the only thing you can change a tire with if you're going to be alone and you have an emergency is, say for instance, one of these cush core bead droppers and another lever. Well, that's what you got to carry. Otherwise, bring a set of hiking boots with you. First lever is the Swabi lever, which won this test right here. Second lever is the Pedros, which won this shootout right here. Third one is the Muck-Off lever, which won this shootout right here. And the final one is this Decathlon lever, which won this shootout right here. So obviously the best of the best, not determined by me, but by the cycling news media. Then we have the Tire Monkey and version 1 and version 2 tire glider. I'm just showing you the difference here. And what is excellent is all 4 of these test winners are available for under $10 US here in Canada where I purchased them. The Tire Monkey is, I think it's around $15 US you can get it on Amazon. Now with the tire gliders, you have a little bit more of a challenge getting them in Canada, but if you're in the US, you can certainly get these for under $20 US. In my case, I ordered 2 of the version 2s from the UK. And with shipping in, I think I got them for under, I think it was 25 Canadian dollars. For weight weenies, I was surprised to find that the 3 Swabi levers were almost the same weight as this big honkin' Decathlon lever, which was in the ballpark of the Pedros lever. And then we get into some pure beef with the Muck-Off lever. And surprisingly, these work alone. The Tire Glider version 1 is around 20 grams, as is the Tire Monkey. And then on the version 2, although it's longer and got more area in it, this one wins the weight contest. For bead width compatibility, like as an example, we have 2 millimeters here on this aluminum rim. Obviously, these are infinite. The Decathlon is the least at 2.8 millimeters. And if I force something in there, and there's a fair bit of flexibility in that system, I can get that up to 3.2 millimeters. Then comes the Tire Glider at 3.1, the Tire Monkey at 4.0, and the champion of these, that is 5 millimeters right there. So you can likely use this one and only this one with the new modern gravel rims. So be careful about that when you're buying these types of tools. Looking at the conventional levers, let's start with how they are stored or hooked together. Swivel levers are loose. To me, unforgivable. The muck-off lever requires this little strap here. Not optimal for me because you tend to lose these things. And the Pedros just fits together. That one takes the win. As far as spoke hooking goes, this system to me is way less robust than using a hook design like this. Also, if you accidentally break one of these hooks, you have some redundancy because you can just use the other side. Now, as far as additional features go, the Swabby, if you have a tire running away from you, is designed, if you look at that, to hook onto the bead of your rim. So that's a win for that one. And the Muck-Off has this valve core. Now, like every tool nowadays has some sort of valve core tightener for Presta on it. And as we go away from Presta in a lot of cases, that becomes less and less significant. But overall, if I look at these three levers, if you put a gun to my head and said, which one am I going to take? This one's a pig. These are super flimsy and flexible. And this one is just right. It fits together. It's got no extra parts. And also, maybe it's just my personal preference, but I prefer the bead hook on the Pedros to the Muck-Off. And you don't have to believe me. I've talked to a lot of bike mechanics, because obviously I go into a lot of bike stores all over Western Canada, and this seems to be the unanimous favorite. If I look at this Decathlon lever, I reached for this a lot, particularly when I was removing the beads on tires. This is clearly the best bead hook remover. And when you want to run, if I go here, I want to get under a bead and then run around the tire. What's nice about this one, if you compare it to a conventional tire lever that's going to be oriented something like this, is you're not going to, if you slip, strafe your fingers into the spokes of the tire. So this one gets the absolute win on tire removal. So much so that this is probably what I consider a shop tool. And that's because this end of the lever, which is probably inspired by this even worse Crank Brothers one, which would only work on aluminum rims, is not really compatible or does not work well with hookless rims and or rims like this one with small bead hooks on them. Overall, with the new trend of thicker beads and bead hooks for gravel, this one's going to stay in my shop. But I'd love them to reinvent this. And I'll get into this in a little bit more detail later, but this is one half of my perfect tire lever.
If I go to the Tire Monkey and I compare it, say for instance, to the Decathlon, it is at a disadvantage when you're trying to hook a bead out. My opinion, this arm here is not long enough. And when you're running your bead in this direction, there's a little shelf here that sits on top of your rim bead. That gets in the way when you're trying to hook the bead. But it's not a showstopper. But when you're installing the tire, this is excellent, particularly considering that if you slip, you're not going to run your hands into the spokes. Also, if you look, you got the press to core remover and a swabble, or not swabble, pardon me, Schrader, everything with all these S sounds, indent here so you can release pressure. You can also use this on a click valve. The big issue I have with this lever is that this end is not used. And unfortunately, I think there's a little bit of intellectual property theft here, because if I look at this on Amazon, this as lymph or whatever they call it, let's pull this out. This thing is pretty much dimensionally an exact carbon copy of the Tire Monkey. But what it does do is it gives you a longer lever with more leverage and the same features here. So if you can't pry with this end, you can work it with this end. The issue is, it is even more of a pain in the ass when you're trying to use this end because the hook is so much wider. To me, this makes no sense. If I was using this, I would just machine this off and have it the same width as the original Tire Monkey. Maybe these are made by the same company. I don't know. Tell me in the comments if you know otherwise.
Here's a little hack I have for the Tire Monkey, because I only use it in the shop for mounting tires. I've got this comfortable little foam grip handle on it. But what I'd love to see is a beefed up version of this for shop use only with a nice grip handle on it, because these tools work so well.
There's some very subtle differences between the Tire Glider version 1 right here and version 2. You can obviously see that you can get a larger rim. That's 5mm opening right there. So even the widest rim, which I think is 5.2mm with the Specialized Rovell, Terra, CLX, or whatever they call it now, their mega amazing rim. This will work, whereas this will not. But if you have this lever, and I won't talk about it too much more, because there's only very subtle differences in it, if it works with your current rim combination, I don't think the differences are worth the upgrade. This is a fantastic tool. So the way this works is that when you're reinstalling a tire, you run it along the bead in this direction while pushing with your hands here. This round dome allows you to sort of help guide the tire in place. As far as tire removal goes, I find because of the width of this, which is required for the pushing, it's a bit of a pain in the arse to hook your tire out. Generally what I do is when I have a rim is I drop a fair bit of bead, then hook this under. And if I've got tubeless, not a big deal, but if I've got a tube, you have to be careful, but generally not an issue. And then you push along like this. This is one of the easiest ways to get a tire off. Overall, though, I think the Tire Glider is just slightly better.
I would suggest a slightly beefier version with a deeper hook here for mountain bike use. You could put an obligatory pressed ahead core remover and a Schrader poker on here, and also you could do something with this end. Add a few grams and maybe have a smaller hook in here for those tough to get beads. Rehook, if you're listening, this would be my dream mock-up of a tire installer for my shop, which would be a tire glider with a large surface here or a grip so that I can install tires way easier with a lot more force.
You're going to ask me, what is the perfect tool, MAE Biker, if you controlled the design of it? It would be this decathlon lever with a tire monkey end on it, or a tire glider end on it for the installation of tires.
Emergency carry-on bike aside, I should let you know that these are the actual tools that remain on my work trolley after this 6-month experiment. These are the remaining levers in my toolbox right now, and obviously the tire glider and the Pedros will likely find their way onto a bike. And once again, the worst tire levers ever made. At the end of the day, if you want to stick with a conventional lever, the Pedros is hands down the winner. If you're looking for something a little more fancy and gimmicky, you can't beat this tire glider, which is what I use on a lot of my bikes now. And finally, for a shop tool, which I'll likely cover in another video, the prying end of this decathlon lever is absolutely undefeated. I hope that they can fix this end going forward. So with that, if you've got a question, you got a comment, you disagree with me, you want to light me up, put it down below. And as always, when you can, ride hard.